Picture this. Sarah works in marketing, pulling in $62,000 a year. Her husband, Michael, is in IT, making $71,000. Combined household income, $133,000. That puts them firmly in the top 25% of American earners. They should be crushing it, right? Building wealth, maxing out retirement accounts, taking family vacations without guilt. Instead, they're stressed. They're living paycheck to paycheck or dangerously close to it. When their car needed an unexpected $1,200 repair last month, it went straight on a credit card. Here's the thing that keeps me up at night. Sarah and Michael did everything right. They got the degrees. They landed the careers. They got married, combined finances, bought a house in a decent school district. They followed the playbook exactly. So why does it feel like they're drowning? Why does a household making over six figures feel so financially fragile? If you've ever looked at your combined income and thought, we make too much money to feel this broke, this video is going to make a lot of things click into place. We've been sold a story that seems mathematically obvious. Two incomes are better than one. Think about it. If one person making $50,000 can support a family, then two people making $50,000 each should be able to support that same family and have an extra $50,000 left over for savings, investments, and building wealth. That's just basic addition, right? Except that's not what happened. Not even close. What actually happened is one of the biggest financial bait-and-switches in modern American history, and almost nobody talks about it. The term for this phenomenon is the two-income trap, and it was coined by Elizabeth Warren. Yes, that Elizabeth Warren, back in 2003, when she was still a Harvard bankruptcy law professor, long before she became a senator. She and her daughter, Amelia Warren Tyagi, wrote an entire book about this after studying over 2,000 families who had filed for bankruptcy. And what they found was genuinely shocking. Having two incomes didn't make families more financially secure. It made them more vulnerable. It made them more likely to go bankrupt, not less. Families with two working parents were actually more likely to file for bankruptcy than single-income families from previous generations. Let that sink in for a moment. Working twice as hard, bringing home two paychecks, doing everything the modern economy told you to do, and you end up more likely to lose everything. That's not a personal finance failure. That's a systemic trap, and you're probably standing right in the middle of it. To understand the trap, we need to travel back in time. Let me take you to 1970. In 1970, about 43% of women participated in the workforce. The typical middle-class family had one primary breadwinner, usually the father, and one parent at home, usually the mother, managing the household. Now, before anyone gets defensive, I'm not making a political statement here. I'm not saying that was better or worse, more fair or less fair. I'm just describing the economic reality of the time. And here's what most people don't realize. That single income was enough. Not just barely enough, actually enough. According to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and Census Records, a median single-income family in 1970 could afford a median-priced home, spending about 25% of their income on housing, public schools that were reasonably well-funded regardless of neighborhood, basic health care through employer-provided insurance, a reliable car, food, clothing, and utilities, and still have money left over for savings and the occasional family vacation. They had financial margin. They had breathing room. And critically, this is the key point, they had a backup plan. If something went wrong, if the primary earner got sick or lost their job, the stay-at-home parent could enter the workforce. That second potential income was an insurance policy, an emergency reserve that could be activated if needed. Think of it like this. The single-income family was running on one engine, but they had a second engine in reserve. If the first engine failed, they could fire up the backup and keep flying. Now, fast forward to today. Female workforce participation is around 57%, and much higher among married mothers specifically. The two-income household has become the norm, not the exception. In over 60% of married couples with children, both parents work. We've essentially activated the emergency backup plan as the default operating mode. Both engines running at full capacity all the time. And here's where it gets really interesting. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the median household income in 2023 was about $74,000. Adjusted for inflation, that's significantly higher than the median household income in 1970. We're making more money than our parents and grandparents did. So we should be better off, right? Wrong. Look at what happened to costs. Median home prices in 1970, adjusted for inflation, were around $200,000 in today's money. The median home price in 2023? Over $400,000. Housing costs have literally doubled relative to inflation. Healthcare. Healthcare spending per household has increased by over 600% since 1970, even after adjusting for inflation. Childcare. This one's brutal. Childcare barely existed as a major expense in the single-income era because someone was home. Now, the average American family spends over $11,000 per year per child. And that's the average. In high cost of living areas, you're looking at $20,000 to $30,000 per child annually. Education. College costs have increased over 1,200% since 1980. 1,200%. The fixed costs of being a middle-class family have exploded while wages have merely crept up. And all that extra income from the second worker, it got absorbed. Every single dollar of it. The two-income family doesn't have double the financial security of the single-income family from 1970. They have less. Why? Because their fixed costs expanded to consume both incomes. And they burned their backup plan just to keep up with baseline expenses. Now you might be thinking, this doesn't apply to me. We're smart with our money. We didn't let lifestyle inflation eat our second income. And look, maybe you're the exception. But let me walk you through the actual math of what happens to that second income. And I want you to be honest with yourself about whether this applies to your situation. Let's say one partner makes $70,000 and the other makes $50,000. That's $120,000 combined, which feels like a lot. Let's focus on what happens to that $50,000 second income. Taxes. Because of how progressive tax brackets work, that second income gets taxed at a higher marginal rate. The first $70,000 gets taxed at lower brackets, but that additional $50,000 comes in at the top of the stack. Depending on your state, the effective tax rate on the second income could be 30% to 35% or higher when you factor in federal income tax, state income tax, and payroll taxes. So that $50,000 immediately becomes about $32,500 in actual take-home pay. But wait, we're just getting started. Childcare. If you have kids, you need childcare. The average cost of daycare in America is about $15,000 per year per child. Got 2 kids? That's $30,000. You haven't even left the house yet, and your $50,000 income is now worth $17,500. Commuting. 2 working parents means 2 commutes. The average American commute costs about $5,000 per year in gas, maintenance, and vehicle depreciation. That's if you're driving a paid-off car. If you're paying for downtown parking, add another $2,000 to $3,000. If you need a second car that you wouldn't otherwise need, add the car payment, insurance, and registration. Let's be conservative and say $8,000 total for the second person's commuting costs. Your $50,000 is now $9,500. The exhaustion tax. Here's the one most people don't talk about. 2 exhausted working parents means less time and energy for cooking, cleaning, home maintenance, and all the domestic tasks that a stay-at-home parent might otherwise handle. Studies show that dual-income families spend significantly more on convenience services and prepared foods. They're more likely to hire house cleaners, order food delivery, pay for lawn services, buy pre-made meals, eat out more frequently. Why? Because nobody has the energy to cook after a 10-hour day that includes a commute. These exhaustion expenses can easily add another $5,000 to $10,000 per year compared to a household where one person has time to manage domestic labor. Let's say $7,000, $50,000 second income, $18,000 for taxes, $15,000 for childcare, one child, $8,000 for commuting costs, $7,000 for convenience/exhaustion expenses, equals $2,000 net annual benefit. That's not a typo. The net contribution of a $50,000 second income can realistically be as low as $2,000 per year. Maybe less, maybe negative, especially if you have multiple children or live in a high cost of living area. Someone is working full-time, being away from their kids, missing family dinners, grinding through traffic, dealing with office politics and deadlines. For $2,000 per year, that's $166 per month. That's about $8 per workday. That's $1 per hour. The real danger isn't money, it's psychology. When you see a $120,000 combined income on paper, you feel secure. So you spend like it's guaranteed. You buy a house size for two incomes. Cars, schools, activities, everything assumes both paychecks will always be there. The bank says you can afford a $400,000 mortgage. And technically, you can, as long as nothing goes wrong. But life goes wrong all the time. Job loss, illness, burnout, family emergencies. That's where the trap snaps shut. The single-income family of the past had flexibility. If the breadwinner lost work, the other parent could step in. It wasn't ideal, but it was margin. Today's two-income family already used that backup. Both incomes are locked into fixed expenses. There's no reserve, no second move. Animation, two engines failing. Lose one income. And the problem isn't just less cash. It's expenses built for two paychecks. That's why Elizabeth Warren found two-income families were more likely to go bankrupt. Not because they were reckless, but because they had zero margin for error. A Federal Reserve study found nearly 40% of Americans couldn't cover a $400 emergency. Many earned decent money. Their problem isn't income. It's that spending grew to consume all of it. You might be thinking, we need both incomes to survive. Exactly. That's the trap. Housing shows it best. When families competed with one income, prices reflected one income. When two incomes became normal, purchasing power doubled and prices exploded. Two incomes became the baseline just to buy what one income used to afford. An arms race where no one won. The same happened with schools. Good public schools sit in expensive neighborhoods. Families use two incomes to outbid each other for access. What used to be a $200,000 home became a $400,000 mortgage. You're not paying tuition, you're paying for it through housing. And once you're in, you're locked in. You can't go back to one income. The trap is closed. So what's the solution? Treat the second income as temporary, even if it isn't. Most families build fixed costs assuming both incomes are permanent. That's what traps them. Instead, build a one-income foundation. Your essential expenses, housing, food, insurance, should be survivable on one paycheck. The second income becomes optional. Savings, investing, debt payoff, or some lifestyle upgrades. But not survival. Life wouldn't be perfect, but it would be resilient. You wouldn't lose everything when life hits. Over time, that second income starts producing returns. Investments compound. Options appear. The two-income trap isn't about money. It's about flexibility. Previous generations had less stuff, but more margin. We traded that margin for bigger houses and nicer cars. But appearances aren't wealth, and two incomes aren't security if both are already spent. More honest conversations about money and the system. Subscribe now.